Hi, folks. I'm Jimmy Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek Lemaster.
This is Scream Bloody Movie, the podcast where we review a new horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and Derek takes 5 minutes to remember his name.
That did not happen. That did not happen. It was very, very prompt. Real snappy.
If you snap like this.
Now you're making fun of my snaps. I see how it is.
You're lucky he took so long to say his name.
That was probably the longest pause right there.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. There's got to be a delay in the. There's got to be a delay because I do it so quick.
I'm Lydia Judy. I'm Derek Lemaster.
You know, I do the pause for dramatic effect.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah,
we should
now
just put we need to put a drum roll in the middle.
You know what? I'm gonna rewatch this.
We'll put a metronome so it's like, "Hi, I'm Jamie Hiles. I'm Lydia Judy. I'm Derek Lemaster."
Just
I can't wait to rewatch this. I'm gonna send you guys the clip because it was on the money.
You're probably gonna edit it to where it's like, "I'm Lydia Judy. I'm Derek Lemaster." There's gonna be a horrible jump cut, looks like we're on Adult Swim or something.
He just cuts me off halfway through my last name.
Derek Lemaster.
I will say my wife tells me all the time that I have no cadence. I don't have a
rhythm.
Great rhythm. Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. Who needs rhythm when you're in an audio medium?
Yeah, you should hear me sing. Let me tell you what. William Hung ain't got nothing.
Oh,
that's how bad it is.
Cannot wait to hear it. So, guys, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
This lovely evening. Good?
Next question.
Okay, so not the greatest for Derek.
Well, it was a weekend.
It was a weekend, indeed. But guys, we're going to get into the horror news this week because we don't have a lot, but one of the bits of news that we have is something that we talked about earlier. So I'm kind of excited to dive into it a little bit. Let's start with this one first, though. They've released the official Scream poster for the new Scream remake. Have you guys seen this?
No.
All right. Well, now you're about to see it. Let's check it out. Show you guys what it looks like. Here's the official poster right here.
Nice.
What do you guys think?
Not bad.
Not bad?
I mean,
does that give you nightmares, Lydia?
No, I don't think I've had nightmares about Scream.
Yeah, right?
It just scares me pretty good.
It's a good one. Yeah, I think the poster looks good. I'm excited for it still. You guys still excited about the notion of a 5th Scream movie?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this one's going to be a good one for sure.
What do you think, Derek?
Traumatize me forever.
Yeah, I liked the last one. I thought it was.
I really liked Scream 4 as well. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
it was a good one.
Really, the only one I didn't like was the third one.
Yeah, third one's kind of rough. It's kind of like a Scooby-Doo movie. It's it is. It's a Scooby-Doo. We'll talk about that when we dive into the Scream series. Eventually, but I know you can't wait for that, Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say this would. Oh,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Last thing about that. So prior to really everybody having internet access and kind of getting the news of a movie before it came out, when I watched the original Scream, the ending really did throw me off. I definitely did not guess that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I remember watching the first Scream, and I didn't get to see it in the theaters. I watched it on the good old VHS. And we rented it, and we watched it, and I had no idea who you suspect Billy, throughout the whole movie. And then you're like, but that's too obvious. It can't be him. And then you're like, oh, wait, there's two of them. Okay, great. Spoilers if you haven't seen Scream. And if you haven't seen Scream, 96 is Scream. You probably shouldn't be listening to this yet. So
Yeah.
I won't ruin the reveal of the other one, though, in case you haven't seen it. This is interesting. This is what something we were talking about, actually. The David Bruckner's Hellraiser, the movie that we were talking about. You know how there's two competing Hellraisers. There is not necessarily competing, but two opposites. We have one with that is David Gordon Green directing it. It's a miniseries. And then we have the movie with David Bruckner, right? The miniseries had Clive Barker's involvement. Well, now the David Bruckner movie also is produced by Clive Barker. And they just announced this week that we are indeed getting a female Pinhead in this continuity. It is, I'll show you guys. Her, which is, what's her name? Jamie Clayton. She's going to be she has a great face for it, actually.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
So
she's pretty.
Yeah, she's very pretty, but she has the right angular face, I feel like, for the
got a good nose.
Yeah, definitely the nose in the mouth shape would be good for a new version of Pinhead. So, like we talked about earlier, this version is not a remake of Clive Barker's original film, but rather a readaptation of his book, The Hellbound Heart. What are you guys' thoughts on this news of a female Pinhead? Are you for it? What are your thoughts?
I'm all for it.
What do you think, Lydia? You're for it?
No, that I'm for it. Yeah.
Derek, what are your thoughts?
I feel the same way I did when we discussed this the last time. That I would have preferred them to stick with the characterization that they had earlier. But hey, maybe I will be completely surprised.
Well,
but I'm trying to picture that girl with her shaved head.
Well, the interpretation that you're looking for, that characterization, is still going to exist in the David Gordon Green version. Yeah. So this being a readaptation of the Hellbound Heart and not a remake of Hellraiser itself, I'm all for this move. I think it's cool. I think a female Pinhead would be an interesting choice. We've kind of seen one when we had the woman with the wires through her face. Remember her in one of the sequels? But she wasn't very important. She just looked kind of cool. Yeah. So there's that. And then last but not least, well, it actually is quite least besides those, NECA is previewing this new Wolfman figure, since we just did that last week. What do you guys think of this?
I like it.
Looks like him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
that's a really good representation.
And then here's the Wolfman himself. Looks pretty great. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are, of course, in black and white, which is how they should be, right?
Right.
I think I might add that to my collection.
Derek.
It is in black and white, by the way. Did you see? Could you see that?
I don't have to say anything. I don't want to. Rude.
One of the absolute best moments of this podcast.
Truly. The funniest thing I think I've ever heard in my life.
Also, by the time that this airs, we will have went and seen Halloween Kills, which is on the agenda next week. And you'll have our review of that and our thoughts on that movie as well. We're really excited to see it, right, guys? Pumped?
Right. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a trailer for it today while I was watching the game, and it was like this really cool trailer that was in like him walking out with the fire, and it just was intercut with like different scenes and stuff, and he just looked, like a fucking badass, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to see it. It needs to be here now. We are less than a week away, guys. That's exciting. Do you guys have any horror news that you heard that you want to talk about?
I just saw the Chucky series is coming out like real soon.
Yeah, it should be, by the time this airs, it should be out. Mm-hmm. And we'll give you guys our thoughts on that as well. I mean, just a little quick what we think of it if any of us have seen it. I'm planning on watching it when it comes out. I've heard good reviews on it so far. Heard it's really funny and bloody and scary and all the things you want in a Chucky movie, really, in a Chucky series. So I guess the way I've heard it described is that it's like, those CW shows, like Archie or whatever those CW shows that they've made, One Tree Hill, all of those. It's like being in one of those shows with Chucky plugged into it, and he just kills those people that you don't like. So that sounds like a brilliant idea to me.
Yeah.
I am pumped to see that as well. Anything else? No? Your silence says many things. Mostly that you don't have anything else is what it says. But...
Wait till you see my sign language.
Oh, man. I do not want to know what that is. So, guys, today we are talking about a movie that has been near and dear to me for many, many years. This is a little piece I have for, Halloween time. It's our Ash from Sam Raimi's classic Evil Dead. This is Evil Dead 2, obviously. But Ash from Evil Dead. So we are, of course, talking today about Sam Raimi's classic 1983, officially, 1981, more officially, 1979 film, Evil Dead. So this is 1981's Evil Dead. So Evil Dead was premiered. It was filmed in 79. It was finished in 81. That's when it had its premiere, and it was domestically released by New Line in 83. So really, this is the 40th anniversary of Evil Dead this year, and they've had plenty of 40th anniversary screenings, which is mind blowing to me to think about that Evil Dead is 40 years old. Isn't that nuts?
Weird. Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be more nuts.
After just
2 years when I'm 40,
it's like.
What are you saying, Lydia?
I feel like after just watching it, it's like does not feel like a 40-year-old movie at all.
No, it definitely doesn't. And there's plenty of reasons why I feel that way as well that we'll talk about. And a lot of it is all of it is Sam Raimi is the reason that it doesn't feel like a movie that was shot in 1979 and that was released in 1981. Friday the 13th is 1980. And then Halloween, of course, is 1978. These movies are over 40 years old. And we'll discuss Halloween in the future here. Actually, I think it's next week probably. But we'll dig into that. But yeah, it's it's interesting how fresh this movie feels compared to some of its contemporaries in the horror genre. So let's talk about our experiences with Evil Dead. Lydia, let's start with you. This wasn't your first time seeing this, right?
Right.
And what's your connection or experience with Evil Dead?
So I was just talking to Jake about this when we just watched it, because the first time I watched Evil Dead was so memorable for me because it was like one of the first times that my mom and my stepdad like went to go on a date or something. Like I forget what they were doing, but like they left us home alone for like the first time. And we were like, let's go watch scary movies in the living room, you know, without our parents home or anything. Like, it was like so terrifying to me to watch this. We watched this and we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Ooh, quite a double feature.
Both on IFC, both horrifying to, I forget how old we were, but we were pretty young. But old enough to be home alone and take care of ourselves. So it was like right at that age where you want to watch scary movies. And I'll never forget the opening and the swing hitting the porch still like makes my heart beat. Like, it's like, yeah, it's so terrifying.
It's great. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Derek.
That was a great first experience for sure.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a great one.
Yeah.
Derek, what is your experience with Evil Dead?
So I remember I watched them out of sequence. First time I ever saw them. I watched the second one first.
That's a
And
good
later
starting
on, I
point,
saw
to be
them.
honest.
Yeah. And then so do I remember? I don't remember the first time that I saw it, but I remember the first time that I saw there's a scene in this movie. There's a wood scene. Remember the first time I saw that and I was like, what the heck is going on? So there's a couple of scenes in this movie that are like just so iconic.
Oh yeah.
When you think back at the early or the horror movies specifically in that time frame from like the 80s to the mid 90s. But yeah, there's definitely a couple that really stand out, but I didn't watch these in order specifically. So
my experience with Evil Dead was kind of like you. I remember when I was younger, I had watched Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, but I didn't remember them very well. I just knew that there was these movies that my uncle was watching one time when I came over, that sort of thing. The first one I watched was Army of Darkness on Sci-Fi Channel, actually. I saw it on Sci-Fi in my adolescence, like right before I became a teenager, around that time, and fell in love with it. I was like, this movie is fucking crazy. What is this thing? This movie is funny. It's silly. It's action-packed. This Ash character is amazing. What is this? And then I found out, oh, that's the third movie in the Evil Dead franchise. So, of course, I had to go through and watch them in order. And I remember renting Evil Dead, the first one, on VHS and watching it. And it scared me. It was scary. Like, I wasn't like I was like terrified, in a corner. But I remember being like, whoa, that is way different than Army of Darkness.
Yes.
Was not expecting that. And then of course I watched Evil Dead 2, and it's still to this day one of my all-time favorite movies. But yeah, the first time I watched it, I was like, because I remember the hype of it. My parents talking, oh yeah, the first one's really scary. And then I put it in. I remember putting it in, watching it downstairs at mom and dad's, and I was home by myself during the summer, and just was like, this movie is awesome. This, and then that started my Evil Dead love affair, which gives me toys. I have the Book of the Dead over there. I have owned this movie on every format that exists now. I mean, I probably have had this Blu-ray for this movie like 3 times because they release a new one every other year. So, yeah, Evil Dead's a pretty big deal in the Hiles household. So now that we know what our backgrounds with Evil Dead are, let's start right into it. The opening of this movie is really cool, I think. I like how we open with just like this weird, like hazy fog. We don't quite know what it is, and then we get that weird, like Evil Dead font with the the wavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so like. I mean, this movie was made for under $300,000. Let's just get that out of the way first of all, which is insane that this movie was made for that amount of money, and we're talking about it 40 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So we get this really cool, the first shot of the evil force doing its thing, and it's pushing through the woods over the pond and onto the street, Meanwhile, we meet our protagonist driving in Sam's classic, the Oldsmobile, the Delta Oldsmobile that's in every single Sam Raimi movie. And so this movie's great because it starts a lot of things that I just love about movies in general, especially Sam Raimi's filmography. But they're driving and they see this. As they're driving, we get intercut shots of them driving in this truck, barreling the opposite way of them, and it's intercut. And then we get like quick little shots of our cast, and Scotty asks, where are we going? And Ash is trying to tell him where. He's like, right here. And the steering wheel jerks out of the way, and they almost run into the truck, and they, gain control and miss it. What do you guys think of this little opening scene?
I think it's really fun. I think it's interesting that, like, they're singing. Like, the girl is just singing, like there's no radio in the car or something, so she's just singing a song, and they're just listening. Yeah, they're just listening, and it's just fine. Like, they're just friends going to a cabin, and then they're like, are we lost? Like, where are we going? Nobody's
so carefree.
Seen the thing. Yeah, so carefree. And they're like, yeah, when the car steering wheel jerks, you know something's about to go down.
Already, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, what were you saying?
Two main points. One, I feel like they filmed this first. And I feel like throughout the movie, especially Ash, excuse me. I know, man. I'm a flummy fella, but I definitely feel like the confidence of the actors.
Hang on. Next time you log in, I want you on your name to say "flimmy fella."
I'm not going to do that. That's mean.
Anyway, what you were saying about the confidence of the performers.
Yeah, so I do feel like as this movie progressed, you could kind of see the confidence in the actors, like, getting better and better. So I do feel like there was a kind of a linear filming to this. It just seems that way based on that observation that I made. But also, I think it's hilarious that when he cuts the wheel, you just see Ash, like, right there, right over her shoulder.
I love that whole thing. I like
the girl does this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
love it.
Her hands up and like it's so dramatic.
But what's great about it is these little quick cuts, which was not the norm for 1981. The way it's cut. I mean, it's cut like very, with a fast pace and confidence. But yeah, I agree with you about the performance of the actors. Also, we have to remember that the principal photography of this film was filmed in Tennessee over a span of like 12 weeks. But Bruce and company kept filming after all the other actors left, with fake shimps coming in. So they filmed on this movie for over a year. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, Bruce definitely becomes a better actor as a movie. And plus, when he's the whole focus of the show, he has to be. And so by the end, the last 25 minutes or so of this movie is just Ash being, trying to survive, and it's glorious.
It is fun watching him in the car. It almost looks like he has a different haircut, like he's younger. Like it looks like they filmed it so much earlier. Yeah. It's fun to just see, like, he really looks like he's never been in front of a camera, and then by the end it's like he's definitely more confident and such a iconic character.
Yeah, as a movie star.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which
that peach tea.
Yeah. You can piss in a jar and call it Grandpa's peach tea for all I care. That's my Holly Hunter impression.
That was a terrible one.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy. So when he jerks the wheel, I love that he's like, the only thing that works on this thing is your lousy horn. And then there's the two hitchhikers on the road that are like waving. Yeah. I'm not waving at you, or I'm not honking at you. Those
Yes.
hitchhikers are Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert.
Really?
Yeah, that's Sam and
Oh
Rob.
my gosh.
The
that's
reason
perfect.
they're filmed
They're
at a
just
long...
like-
The reason they're filmed at such a wide angle is apparently, from what Sam Raimi has said, they had cut each other's hair before it looked terrible.
Wow.
It's perfect.
I love it. Actually, that scene comes back. So when we get to the tape recorder scene, when they're saying their incantation, one of the incantation is actually translates to Sam and Rob are the hitchhikers on the road.
Are you serious?
Yeah, if you listen to it, he goes, Sam's and Rob, the hitchhikers on the road, or something like that.
What?
But yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Wow.
I
I'm
knew
gonna have to
I
slow
knew
it down.
Jamie was gonna bring all of these little things. Like Jamie
What?
is the expert on Evil Dead. Like we're gonna learn something tonight, guys.
You will learn some stuff tonight, guys. I mean, I've read all Bruce's books, listened to all the audio commentaries for the 15 DVDs I've had. So we got a pretty good grasp on this one. So this one might take a little longer to get through, and it's a shorter film. But hey, if you guys are up for it. So, yeah, so they end up driving across the bridge, and it has a load limit on it. And we see this crickety bridge, and we see these beams falling off of it. And Ash says, "Don't let the noise fool you, girls. This thing's solid as a rock."
Yeah.
And then the wheel crashes through, and it's such a Three Stooges joke. Such a Three Stooges joke in the middle of this horror movie. And that, of course, comes back to what we end up getting with Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. And Ash vs. Evil Dead. But, yeah, so they cross this crickety bridge, and we get this great shot.
Real quick, I don't want to miss this bridge. Did this bridge remind you of the old railroad bridge in Peru? Did you ever walk across that thing?
Before it was fixed up? Yeah.
Yeah, before they fixed it and made it part of the trail, the Nickelback trail.
Yeah.
That's what this reminded me of.
Yeah, it's very sketchy. It was a very sketchy bridge. What's funny is the beams that are on there were actually holdovers from their Super 8 movie they made right before this. That gave them the confidence that they could make a movie called It's Murder. They call them It's Murder beams because they use them for that. It's actually styrofoam painted like wood. And that's actually what Ash uses later in the movie to beat the shit out of Cheryl.
Yeah,
or, I mean, not Cheryl, but
noticed.
Linda. Yeah, you can see it cracking, actually, when he's hitting her.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this great long shot that happens afterwards where they're driving up to the cabin, and we go down the trail with them, and you see how desolate this cabin is. What do you guys think of that shot? And does that
Beautiful.
set the mood of where this
It
place
definitely
is?
sets the mood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, I'd be worried about hillbillies and not evil demons.
If you were in the Wrong Turn series, that would be a
There
very
you go,
be a very valid concern. Or
You always gotta watch
The
out
Hills
for
Have Ice. Yeah, that shot down there, that was the actual path to the cabin. That's the actual drive that the actors and the crew had to drive every day to get down to this cabin. So they just strapped a camera on top of it, and that's why you see the vines pop over it, and one of them gets kind of wrapped around it and then flips off because they just popped the camera on top and then they drove down this cabin. That actually froze that winter, so it was impassable with a car, so they had to hike it. So
That's dedication right there.
Also this cabin, let's talk about the cabin real fast. We get our first peek of the cabin, and it looks really nice, right? I mean, kind of. I mean, it's nice enough. When they took it over, it was derelict with cow manure all over it. It was overrun with animals. It didn't have a fireplace. It didn't have a cellar. It didn't have working electricity, and it didn't have heat. Actually, while they filmed, it still didn't have heat. They had the fireplace and just kind of tried to warm themselves. So this shoot was terrible. There's actually a story where one of the shirts that Bruce wore, he put by the fire to warm up, and since it was made with Caro syrup, it hardened, and when he went to put it on, it shattered.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
So this was
That's
not an
awesome.
easy movie to make. As they say, the harder the movie is to make, the easier it is to watch. So, what do you guys think of this introduction to the cabin? Because we have Scotty going up, and just what you were talking about earlier, Lydia, with the porch swing.
It's so good. Like it's like the cabin is its own character right from the beginning. And like him walking up to it and everybody just stands back and like waits. And they're like, should we go? Like nobody says anything. It's so quiet and he's just like nervous about going and unlocking it. And then like as soon as he reaches up above the door to find the key that he knows is hidden up there, and the swing stops. Like
Just dead.
Suddenly, just
Yeah.
dead stops. And it's so freaking, and he just turns around and looks at them and they're all just quiet.
He says
He's
it's
like, okay.
supposed to be one of these on here.
Yeah. Love it. I just love it.
Derek, what do you think of this?
I think it sets the tone for the movie so well. You know, I can't think of many things that are more scary than a remote cabin in the middle of the woods.
Yeah,
And then you throw in some, you know, Book of the Dead and incantations, and
you're not gonna have a good
yourself
time.
a party.
Yeah, not gonna have a good time. Yeah,
I do think that it sets the tone of the movie perfectly.
Yeah, I love it. Especially, I love how Scotty goes and explores the whole house by himself, the whole cabin. So we see him walk in the main room of the cabin, and he does this whole, you know, he's looking through everything. We see it smoke filled, and you know, there's stuff hanging from it. It's creepy looking, and then he goes into the work shed, which becomes very iconic in the sequels. And he's goes to the work shed, and we see him looking around. We see the skull hanging on the thing. If you look above the door, in Evil Dead 2, you'll see a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy glove hanging on it. But we'll get to that in part 2. But so we set all of this stuff up pretty well. I feel like it's good to give us not only atmosphere but geography, right? So we kind of know the space we're going to be spending the rest of this movie in. So then after that, everybody's kind of in the house, and we cut to Cheryl, and which is Ash's sister. She's drawing on, you know, a sketch of the clock, and it actually looks really good. I love that clock. That grandfather clock is awesome. So we see this great shot from inside the grandfather clock, and we see it, the arm swinging, and then it just stops. It just stops, you know, still. And then after it does a dead stop, then the pages, she loses control of her hand, and she flips the pages and starts drawing, and draws basically the Book of the Dead. Yeah. Her hand becomes veiny, the whole deadite thing, and she draws the Book of the Dead, and then the cabin starts, the cellar starts bumping up, and you see it like starting to go up. We cut to Cheryl, and then we get our first scare, which does not work at all. Has never worked. As many times I've seen this, which is the smash cut to the blender. Has that scare ever worked for you guys? Did that ever give you guys a jump scare?
I didn't even remember it when you said that. I was like, what jump scare are you talking about?
It's just a cross cut, and they've always said, man, that scare never works. We had a great idea, but it just never quite worked out. What do you guys think of the Cheryl scene?
I thought it was interesting that they jumped into that so quick. Like, it's like
they don't mess around.
Yeah, they go into the cab, they show you the cabin, and then she's in it, and then she does that, and then you're like, oh man, and then they're just like at dinner all of a sudden.
Yeah, and of course we find that's when we start to get a little bit of characterization for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that Scotty is kind of a what would you call Scotty? A jerk?
Clown.
I mean, he definitely
Clown,
he reveals himself at the kind of the middle part of this movie. But yeah, he's a total
bully.
He
is the
doesn't
best
know.
word, I guess. He's kind of a bully
Yeah.
to Cheryl. He's kind of
yeah.
a bully to Cheryl, and he, he starts doing his, there's something in the cellar, and so there's this dinner scene's hilarious to me because it's like they're trying like this improvisation kind of charming dinner thing, and they're just these like bunch of amateur actors. It's like a quartet of just amateur actors finding their way, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's charming, very charming. And then after he says "party down," we the cellar door just pops open by itself, and we get the first big piece of music from Joe LaDuca. Scotty goes down to investigate. And when Scotty takes too long to investigate, Ash goes down with a lantern to check it out. So an interesting bit about this, like I said earlier, there was no cellar in this house, in this cabin. So they cut a hole in the floor. They dug it about 4 feet and just put a false set of stairs down there. And then they'd walk and go around the corner. And that's how they were in the cellar. And then the stuff that's shot in the cellar was actually shot at Rob Tappert's parents' house in Michigan. It was filmed in their cellar.
That's awesome.
So there's technically a scene where when Ash goes down and he looks up, it's Ash in Michigan looking up to Tennessee, where they shot the movie. So it's so great that they were able to kind of figure these things out.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the shot when he looks up at at them, and they're all framed looking down in the cellar at him. It's so spooky. What do you guys think about this scene where he's walking through the through the cellar?
It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's insightful commentary.
I don't have
pretty
anything to say about that part, I guess. I don't know.
I think it sets very good tension. It's actually one of the most suspenseful scenes in the movie, in my opinion, because we don't know what's going on yet with Scotty. We go down to this creepy cellar and we see like gourds randomly hanging from strings and shit. We get down there and then we get the scare of Scotty. That's when we find out that Scotty's a big prankster. And did you guys notice the poster on the wall?
Yes.
What was it?
Stands out. It stands out pretty bad. The Hills Have Eyes poster. I think it stands out.
Yes.
Yeah, I missed that one.
So there's a reason that poster's in there. Sam Raimi purposely put it there.
I just want to ask, was this movie in color or black and white?
I'm just gonna pretend like we didn't have that conversation.
I just want to make sure.
So mean.
But the purpose of the purpose of the Hills Have Eyes poster is in the Hills Have Eyes. The scene where they break into the mobile home and they drink the bird's blood and all that stuff. The whole horrific scene in the Hills Have Eyes, where all the shit goes down. There's actually a poster of Jaws in the background that's torn in half, and Sam Raimi took that as to say, You think Jaws is scary. You ain't seen nothing yet. Jaws is pop horror. This is real horror.
Mhm.
So Sam Raimi tore the Hills Have Eyes poster in half, as if to say, you think the Hills Have Eyes is scary. You haven't seen nothing yet. This is real terror. So that's why it's purposely, so obviously, just torn in half, hanging on the wall. Which actually started
That's really
a
good
friendly...
context to have.
It is. It started a friendly little joking rivalry between Sam Raimi and Wes Craven. Nancy's watching Evil Dead, the first one in Nightmare on Elm Street, the Freddy gloves in Nightmare 2, so on and so forth. So it's really fun that ended up being a thing. But when they're down there, they find the Book of the Dead. They find a tape recorder. And they find a shotgun. And a Kandarian dagger made of bones. What would you guys be feeling at this point if you were here and you went down in the basement and you saw all of this shit? First of all, would you mess with it?
Nope. Nope.
I think maybe it's one of those things that's ingrained in us because we are like horror fans, that it's like we know better.
Right. Because of the movies we've watched, we would never touch it.
Yes, including this movie. Like, this movie probably started all of that. All of that, like, don't touch the thing in the basement of the cabin. Like, don't mess with it.
Leave it alone.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if they left it alone and they didn't use the incantations. In theory, right? In theory, they would have just went home after the weekend, right?
I don't know, because I mean, you already got like the demon view.
Yes,
that was
but
already like
I don't think it's strong enough to. My interpretation has always been it's not strong enough to inhabit the living yet. So the incantation is what makes that thing happen.
That
is
makes
him
sense.
reciting it. So
now, wait. Quick question. I'm thinking back. I know I just watched this movie, but do they play the tape recorder before, like she does her drawing, or after?
No, it's after. It's after, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they're trying to get them to go down into the cellar to play the incantation. It's them trying to guide them there, because that's why it was this. Everything to do with the cellar was. Let's try to lure them. We have enough power to lure them down to the cellar. And if they play the incantation, especially out loud, then we have license to possess the living. So the next scene is basically what would end up later being like a campfire scene from most horror movies. This is where we get our exposition dump. And we get them playing the recording. We find out that there's this doctor, Raymond Noby, who studies these things, and he brought the book to this remote cabin with his wife Henrietta, which we meet in Evil Dead 2, and they go to the cabin to he goes there extensively to basically translate the book to see what it says, because it's part of he's an archaeologist of this stuff. And he accidentally awakens it. So during this scene, they're playing it, and it starts to get really creepy, and Cheryl has him turn it off. And then, Scotty's like, no, I want to watch it. I want to listen to the rest of it. So he turns it on anyway, and it starts doing the, starts doing the kanda and whatever. We get this really great shot of the ground, and underneath the ground we see this red light bubbling up, which is showing us the I don't know what you call it, the evil coming up from the ground, and everything's starting to, the editing's quick and fast, and then Cheryl says, turn it off, and we get this tree smashing through the window to basically end the bit. What do you guys think of this whole scene? does it work, and is it spooky?
I think it works. I think the tree smashing didn't work for me this time, like this go through of watching it, but I was just kind of like, oh, I was like, everybody doesn't seem to react to it except for the girl who was already terrified. So I don't
Ash
know.
does, because he goes over to fix it.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
Do you like this scene, Derek?
I do like this scene. I feel like in 1981, it probably would have been a lot more impactful. But I mean, I think even today, it still serves its purpose, lays the groundwork, and lets you know the shit's here.
Yeah. The shit comes
The fan
fast.
has started.
The shit starts fast, and it comes fast and furious 7 in this movie. Like, I mean, it's just basically from the moment they arrive at the cabin, it's go, go, go.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what's fun about the Evil Dead is there's no fat. There's no, just scenes of them building the character and stuff. We don't really care, So, we get this bit after that. Ash says, "Hey, listen, you knew you were scaring her. Tell Scotty, you knew you were scaring her. You just don't know when to quit." And he's like, "She acts like she's 3 damn years old or something." And we cut to like the shot of the moon and what have you. But when we get back with them, we see Ash and Linda sitting on the couch together, and she goes to check on something. And when she goes, we see that he has like a little trinket for her, a little gift. And they do this bit, which is called eye games, where we do close-ups of her eyes and then close-ups of his eyes as he's pretending to sleep, and he's watching her as she's reaching for the box. It's this fun little bit that at the first time you're watching it, you're kind of like, well, what's the point of this? But it pays off at the end, later in the movie in a big way.
Yeah.
And so it's great. Together they're great. So he ends up giving her this necklace, which is I'm sorry guys, it's the most hideous fucking piece of shit necklace that's ever existed. What do you guys think?
I love it. I think it's perfect. I think it's so sweet, super romantic that he's just like, they're being playful together, and you see them like at the beginning of their relationship. And I love love stories. I really enjoy this part of this movie. Like their eyes, it's everything to me.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great scene.
It makes me love the necklace just because she loves it. It's like, I don't know what that necklace is. I don't know what it's supposed to be or supposed to do. It seems like it's like supposed to be something, but it's like, I want one. Like, I want that moment.
I'll tell you what it's actually supposed to mean after we hear from Derek.
So I do think that it was a really good. It does pay off in the end, and I think that is a great way to tie it all together. But I thought it was a really sweet thing to do. I thought it was to Lydia's point, it was really cute, like back and forth banter, and I probably would have chosen a different necklace than that one, but I did think it was pretty. It is a nice little playful scene.
So the reason that necklace is the way it is because originally the conceit was, Sam said that the conceit was that the necklace was supposed to, the sun was supposed to hit the necklace and is supposed to start to burn the book. That's what gives Ash the idea that the book can burn. That's why it has the glass on the end of it. But then they realized that just is too hokey and didn't quite work. So instead, they were just stuck with this horrible, hideous prop that they had to bring back for Evil Dead 2. And Ash vs. Evil Dead, it just never leaves. But yeah, I love this scene. It's one of the few character developing moments in the movie where we get to see this, Ash be sweet. And we also have to remember the Ash in Evil Dead is not quite the Ash from Evil Dead 2. And definitely hasn't made the progression of Ash for Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 1 Ash is everyday schmo that is just kind of sweet and, that sort of thing. He doesn't become an idiot, really, until Army of Darkness. This when his full arc to superhero idiot occurs. So in this one, he's, just a sweet, lovable guy. And Evil Dead 2, he becomes, a hero with a torn shirt. Then Army of Darkness, he's a full-blown action hero that's a moron. So then by the time we get to Ash vs. Evil Dead, he's just totally awful. Like, totally dumb. But can kick ass when the Evil Dead's around.
Have you, this is going to be a weird, parallel. Have you ever seen the first episode of Fixer Upper?
No.
Never seen that?
I've never seen a single episode of it. What the hell is Fixer Upper?
So it's this HGTV.
No, I don't watch HGTV.
It has
for
a point, all right? It has a point. But anyway, so it's about this this couple who buy houses and flip them, or they get contracted to fix the house up for people who are going to move in, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I can't believe you've never seen this. It was a nationwide hit. The first episode of that,
is anybody paying it? Of course, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, the first episode, the husband guy, his name's Chip. You can just kind of see that he wants to break out, but that he's keeping a straight demeanor and trying to stay on on focus. And then you watch it the next season, he's the goofiest person you've ever met in your life, and he's just this happy-go-lucky person.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's how
I have no idea.
This first movie of this franchise it's them this is our big moment. We've got to do this. And there's these little elements that they try to throw in of themselves that are the funny bits. The car scene is a good one. Mm-hmm. I feel that that's kind of the approach that they took with this movie. And then as they progressed through the series, they're you know what, we're just gonna have as much fun with this as we want to.
Well, yeah, the original conceit of this movie was to make the most terrifying movie possible. By the time they get to Evil Dead 2, they're let's make a movie. I don't know if we can be scarier than Evil Dead, so let's make it more fun than Evil Dead. Then by the time they get to Army of Darkness, they're hey, let's just have a ball. We got all this money to make a third Evil Dead movie. How crazy is that?
I really love how Derek just compared Ashley Williams to Chip Gaines.
That's the only insight you'll get on this podcast, folks. You only get the inside of that here on Screen Bloody Movies.
I never thought I would ever hear in my life.
Chip Carroll.
Not Chip Carroll.
I do love Chip Gaines. He is a great dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, where the hell were we before we started talking about HGTV and shit?
We were talking about the necklace.
The necklace. Right. Okay, so this is when we get. I love this next shot. It's a oneer actually. For a while, we get of the force, of the evil force outside, and we scroll through. We see Ash and Linda outside. We come through around and we see Scotty and Shelly, and she takes off her shirt because we need half a boob. So we see half a boob there. Then we pull through and we see Cheryl brushing her hair, and the voice says, "Join us." And we track her as she comes outside, and we end that oneer. So then she decides to go into the woods to follow the noise she heard, and she's saying, classic horror movie things I heard you in the woods, and she walks 15 feet into the woods to say, "Is there anybody there?" Because it's a horror movie. That's what you do. So then she gets fucking straight up attacked by the trees, guys. These trees are no joke, and I love the way that this is shot. It's all done with reverse motion of the vines wrapping around her limbs and tearing her shirt off and stuff, the over shawl that she has. And then it ends up tripping her down and pulls her arms down, and we get boob number 2. And we see her boob. And then we get what is which is the most controversial part of this whole movie, which is a trigger warning, actually, for folks if you've experienced trauma of this sort. Hopefully, you haven't. And also, hopefully, you haven't via tree, obviously.
Mm.
But so she's sexually assaulted by the tree, essentially. It spreads her legs, and this big vine just comes right down, right on in there. What are you guys' thoughts on this scene?
As I was watching it, I was like, why do I forget about this scene every time? Like, every time I go to watch this movie, it's like I block that part out. I'm like, I don't even want to look at this part. I block it out every time. And then I'm always like shocked every time I see it. I'm like, what is happening? Like, who made this decision to put this in this movie?
I could tell you who made the decision, actually. I can. Derek, I'll tell you in a second. Derek, what are your thoughts on this?
It's shocking because you've like never seen anything like that before in your life. And then you're like, man, if she did make it back to town and she was to give a statement and they asked her to describe the perp, would she be like, was it a birch tree?
Oh my God. We need a sketch artist in here.
Yep, it was definitely a weeping willow.
No, he's a little taller, a little less bark.
A little more bite. Anyway,
Oh my God. No, it's a it's definitely goes a little too far. I think her being attacked by the trees is excellent. She should 100% always be attacked by the trees.
Yes.
That's a great visual. It's a great scene.
Great effect.
Great effect. The penetration is just too far. And the reason it's in there is that was a Rob Tappert's suggestion. He wanted to just punish the audience. He wanted to take it one step too far. Sam kind of had reservations, but he was like, okay. Bruce flat out didn't want to do it. He was like, I think this is a terrible idea. But they did. And we get the... Bruce says, actually, just in an interview I read with him recently, he said at that point, they get walkouts at that point every time. If there's a packed house, you can guarantee that somebody's going to walk out during that scene. And he's like, if we did it again, Sam Raimi said if he were to make the movie again, that scene wouldn't be in there. But discounting that part, the scene itself is super effective and super great, especially the rakes on her back. You see it like rip her clothes and scratches appear. And she's running in nothing but her underwear, like nightgown shirt, and that's it. She doesn't have shoes on. She has nothing. Actually, kind of what I put our poor actress through for Hookman.
And she got poison ivy to boot.
She did, yeah. Yeah, we all got poison ivy though, guys.
I did not get poison ivy. I wore long pants.
Didn't either.
I threw those suckers away.
I think you could have just washed them.
No.
It wasn't biohazard.
Burn them.
Dude, I get poison ivy like real bad.
I don't think I am allergic to poison ivy.
Yeah,
I've never gotten it. I've never gotten poison ivy, so, and I'm in the woods a lot.
I get it if I get it, it's a real light. Poor poor actress. She got it all over her whole her whole legs and everything.
Yeah.
So then we filmed at a different location the next time we shot. So there you go.
I mean, that was kind of out of necessity.
Yeah, but
that's a story for another time.
It's a story for a completely different time. When we do the commentary for Hookman. So if you guys want us to do that, leave a like and comment, and we'll totally do one for our short films. That'd be great. So she's being chased by the evil force, and I love that we see it knocking down trees and stuff as it's bowling towards her, and she goes to reach for the key and it gets stuck. And it's creeping on her. she drops it, and then we get this other scare that doesn't quite land, but of Ash grabbing her hand. We get a sting cord. Blink. Then when she goes inside, we get a really cool oneer. So like the scene inside in the house when she goes back into the cabin and she's talking about the woods coming to get her, it's shot in one continuous scene. It's a whole oneer until they go back outside, and she convinces Ash to take her into town because she's, the woods are attacking her. The woods themselves, Ashley, the trees are alive. And so he reluctantly does. And then once he's going to start the car, it doesn't turn over, and she's like, "They're not going to let us leave." You see? And then once it starts, the look he gives her is awesome. What do you guys think of this whole bit?
I'd want to get out of there too. Freaking
Yeah.
out.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And
And
you also...
Yeah, go ahead.
Good.
I was going to say, you would have to, like, if you're her, you would have, as silly as it sounds, like, you'd have to maybe even make up a story to let it have a little bit more credibility than, hey, the woods attacked me and these bad things happened to me. But, yeah, I don't know that you'd want to believe the person, but it's so outlandish. You'd have to be skeptical at what they're trying to tell you. Obviously, the fear is real. You can see that.
Absolutely. I agree. Like, I don't blame the other characters for not believing her. I mean, that's a crazy story. The trees came alive and attacked me. Like, okay, so maybe you should take Cheryl into town because something, maybe she like ate a berry that was bad for her when she was in the woods or something. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It would be hard to, but like you said, you could see the fear, so you would have to take her into town. But I don't know. How would you react, Lydia?
Yeah, I would definitely care a little bit more about her than to just be like, no, you're fine. We're fine. Everything's fine.
He goes to take her into town. And
yeah,
to
but
Ash's credit,
she wasn't going to. Like, he like finally was like, okay, you can stay in town then. Like, is mad at her about it.
Well, you also have to remember they're brother and sisters, and he's in his early 20s.
She is like frantic and is bloody and cut and like.
Now, that's true, but she could have also fell down a hill. Derek's probably fell down some hills, right, Derek?
No.
Nope, never fell in my life. Always stood on both legs.
I mean, it was a small hill. But anyway. There was an audience, though, so that made it worse.
We should totally cut in a clip of Chris Farley falling down that hill in Black Sheep.
Just tumbling.
It was a small hill. Nothing major.
Oh.
So they get Ash drives her to the. They're gonna leave, and they go to the bridge, and the bridge is torn up. And I love this shot because it's like at an angle. Ash is walking tilted down towards it. The way it's all framed, it's very technical. But and so she goes to investigate by herself, and finds out that the bridge is ripped up. At this point, Cheryl's kind of made out to be our final girl. If this were a normal movie, wouldn't you feel like she would be the final girl at this point? I mean, because she's the one that's had the most.
And she got away, and it's like she's trying really hard, and she's the only one that knows about it.
So they return to the cabin, and Ash decides to listen to the. He's listening to the tape recorder with an earpiece. and he's finding out, like, the exposition where they're saying that the only way to actually defeat the demon is to dismember it. And while he's doing that, Linda and Shelley are playing this card game. Shelley's just like flat out lying to Linda. We'll say, "Is it a two of hearts?" And she's like, "Why, yes, it is."
Yeah, I love
It
that.
reminds me of that scene from Ghostbusters.
It does, yeah. Except in Ghostbusters, we know why Peter Venkman's he has way different ulterior motives than Shelley. But as she's doing this, my favorite bit before we get to the scary part is she said, "Ash, I guessed the card right," and he goes, "Truly amazing, Linda."
Yeah. That's because he's still listening to the recorder at this point, right?
Yeah, it's just so great. He's just like, "Yeah, that's truly amazing, Linda." I was like, "Oh, that's the first bit of Ash coming out."
Yeah.
And then
Told you, old Chip.
then Cheryl starts reading the actual cards, saying what's coming, and she turns around and she's like, she has white eyes, and she has a cut above her head still, and like has the bandage on it, and she fucking starts floating, and says that she's gonna kill one by one. They're gonna take them out and everything, and falls to the floor. Everybody just kind of like, what the hell was that? And approach her. And here it is, guys. She jumps up, grabs a pencil, and jabs it into Linda's Achilles tendon and breaks the pencil off. What do you guys think of the Achilles tendon stab?
That is like one of the things that doesn't bother me to watch for some reason. It's every time I watch this with somebody, they're always like, "Oh my God, like I can't look at that." And like, I'm just like, I don't care about that one. That one doesn't bother me at all. So but I really love the effects, and I think it looked really good.
It does look really good. And that's how I feel. Like, I wasn't like, I guess the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh my God," because I didn't see her standing up and stabbing her right in the Achilles heel. And you're like, "Oh, that's gotta smart. That can't feel great." But yeah, it's a great effect. It looks really good when it digs into the skin and stuff.
Looks nasty.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Derek?
Some good stuff. I think the most gruesome scene in this movie is at the end, whenever he's like poking the guy's eyeballs out.
Yeah, that's the best. That's my favorite effect. It's my favorite.
Yeah, I also think
that's the one that I don't like.
Yeah,
it's the one you don't like.
We'll get to it for sure.
There. Yeah, no, it was really good though. I liked it.
What follows is this fight scene, basically, where she just starts smacking everybody around. She slams Ash into a shelf, knocks everything off of it. The shelf lands on top of him. Then Scotty starts fighting with her, and he comes in from chopping wood, and like hits her and knocks her into the cellar. And then he starts smashing her head, which is clearly a dummy. He starts just smacking it, and then her hand's up there. It's clearly just like a rubber hand that he's bashing with the thing. Yes. And then he locks her in the cellar. What do you guys think of this whole action beat?
I mean, if you're not looking at the dummy, I think honestly the dummy parts are what make this movie special.
The charm, right?
Yes, it's like it doesn't take away. I don't think it takes away much from it. Just makes it more brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it works, even though it is clearly a dummy.
Oh, well, he is whacking the fuck out of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, he really is, and I think that's the action it needed, and it works for a low budget, and it's still, I think it's still effective.
Derek.
So I think there's two perspectives on this. So the first one is just from a pure entertainment standpoint. It's entertaining, right? You watch this, and I mean, you can see that it's a dummy and a fake hand, but if you're really into the movie, like that really doesn't matter,
No.
right? It's the action, it's the just the atmosphere the movie is portraying. The second thing is, from a perspective of people who are making movies, you're like, man, they did all that with a $300,000 budget.
Dude, it's
Like,
insane. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know what I mean?
When I was watching it today, I was definitely watching it from that perspective as well. Like, I know what it takes for us to make the stuff that we make. And, you know, the gore effects that we have in the rigs that we've created. And then I'm like, imagine you have X amount of money to go to the woods and do this. And the stuff that they were able to do and the shots that Sam Raimi was able to get, especially in the last half of this movie, is phenomenal to me. It blows my mind. As I was watching it today out loud, Sarah was like, what are you saying? Because she was in the room with me while I was watching it. And multiple times I was like, oh, God, Sam Raimi, you're excellent. Or, God, you're the best, Sam Raimi. Or, what a great shot. I love the way they did that. And Sarah's like, who are you talking to? I was like, oh, no, nobody, just me. I was talking to myself about how great Sam Raimi is. But
well,
yeah,
I think the thing that sets him apart, especially like in this movie, and also in any other movie that you watch that he has directed, is he's got these angles that are just his. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like when there's specific shots when you see it, you're like, I know who directed this movie.
And we'll get to them here shortly. When we get to that end scene, we'll go through all of our favorite shots, because the whole back half of this is just loaded with them. So anyway, Cheryl's locked in the cellar. Linda's laying down because she got stabbed in the Achilles tendon, and Ash goes in to check on her, and tucks her in. If you watch, when Ash goes in to check on her, he's limping. That's because Bruce actually got his foot caught in a root and twisted his ankle. And then Sam and Rob were trying to joke with him and prod him to get on the set. So they were poking it with a stick. And he was laughing at the absurdity of it, so they kept doing it. And then it became this crazy thing where he was being prodded literally in the ankle with a stick. And so then they're like, wait, we got to go film this. So he's gingerly walking. I would not do that to my actors.
You would if they were your friend. Maybe.
I in this next movie, something happens to you in the next movie.
I'm not acting in this next movie.
No, in the movie that we just filmed, the next one.
Oh,
that comes out. Something happens, but I don't beat you up or anything. Right? I didn't beat you up at all, right, Lydia? You had it easy when we did Hookman. Just had to say some lines and listen to a scary deer in the background. No big deal.
No, I was treated like a complete celebrity on the set of Hookman.
You had your own trailer and everything.
Yes. All my demands were met.
Yep.
You at least got pizza.
There was definitely pizza.
Got fed.
One of my demands at the time.
Yep, which is a demand all the time. Every time we film an episode of Scream Bloody Movies, Lydia gets a piece of pizza sent to her house. That's the only way she does this.
Just one slice.
Just one slice. Jake tries to get some. She's like, "Are you on the podcast?" I think not, and eats it.
Yeah, and it's like
slowly
anchovy.
In front of him.
I just want it to be something really gross, like anchovies and something weird,
Anchovies and marshmallows. How's that sound?
That's pretty weird. That sounds weird.
Sounds terrible.
With chocolate drizzle.
Yeah, and peanut butter. And some oregano.
You're just making me really hungry.
Might as well throw some Oreos on there while you're at it. I mean,
nothing makes me hungrier than an oregano, anchovy, marshmallow pizza with chocolate and peanut butter. Yeah. Sounds glorious. All right. So there's this great shot where Cheryl's in the cellar and we get from her point of view, and she's watching Scotty and Shelly, and then Ash. She's watching them all have a dialogue scene together. And so that's a really cool way to shoot a dialogue scene. It's from the point of view of the possessed. And she says, "What's wrong with her eyes?" And we do this cool pan down, and we see her with the white eyes and how creepy she looks in the cellar. She's like, ah, ah, ah. All haggy and stuff. So Scotty sends Shelly to bed. And after he sends Shelly to bed, we get another force shot. And this time it goes through and breaks the window at Shelly. Which, by the way, was real glass flying at that actress.
Holy cow.
They just had a T-bar, smashed the glass out. She was back far enough, smashed it out, and she's like, ah. We would not do that either, folks. So, oh, hey, is that the resurgence of the chair?
I was like, man, that one was really loud. They're gonna make it loud.
The chair returns. So yeah, basically it possesses Shelly now, and Scotty goes in to investigate, and he gets attacked by her. And there's this huge fight scene that takes place between her, Scotty, and Ash. And basically Ash is kind of just thrown around, and he's terrified. He's just holding the axe, doesn't know what to do. So first, Shelly ends up cutting off her hand with his knife. After he knocks her into the fire, and her face catches on fire, right? Her face catches on fire. He pulls her out, and she says, "Thanks for not burning my beautiful flesh." Mm-hmm. And then she tries to stab him with the Kandarian dagger, and he cuts her hand, and then she bites it off. He uses it to stab her, and she has this like does this horrific noise. It's horrific noise when she's dying, and she spews all this different bile and milk and all this stuff, and we think she's dead. Then she comes back again, and he ends up having to chop her up with the axe. And we see the aftermath of the body parts flapping on the ground. What do you guys think of this whole sequence? And do you have any particular favorite parts of it?
Well, I think my least favorite part is the noise. I think I am like easily like noise triggered. Like if it's like this noise is so, unpleasant, and it goes on for so long. And I'm like one of those people that will put on like a horror movie like as a comfort horror kind of situation where I'm like trying to go to bed and I'll just put on a scary movie. And this movie, you almost cannot do that, because this is like the point when you're like starting to doze off and you're like getting comfortable, and then this sound happens, and it's like it's just impossible to sleep through. For one, it wakes you up every single time. So that's my least favorite part of it. But I really do love how brutal it is that she bites off her hand. Like she like just gnaws through it like an animal. And the different colors of things that are like spewing out of her are really, really disgusting.
Oh yeah. Derek.
I don't know that I could put it any better than what Lydia just said. This is the cutover to like the second half of the movie where you start to see the real gore. Like the first part, had some shocking moments, but this is the point where the car starts to roll down the hill, and it starts to get real interesting.
Oh yeah. I'm with you. I love when she bites off her hand. It's like my favorite part because it's so like animalistic. And it's just like the way she gnaws it off and then it falls to the floor. And then he has to use it to stab her with it.
Yes.
And then, yeah, the noise is horrific. It actually sounds like this, in case you were wondering. And then it's just, I remember being a kid watching this. You know, I was in my early teens, and my mom was in the other room, or I was watching it later at night, and she was like, "Oh my God, what is that? That's a terrible noise. What is that?" I was like, "Yeah, that's Evil Dead. Sorry, Mom."
Yeah,
She's like,
see
"Oh
that.
my God, that's
Like, why is this noise still happening?
yeah," because it goes
Like,
on
just hearing
forever.
Hearing
Yeah.
it from another room, you'd be like, what is going on?
What is he watching? So
Yeah.
yeah, they and then I also love her body parts flopping on the ground is a great effect.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
so visceral and so cool.
Yeah. Just like, they're just like kind of squiggly.
Yeah, just squiggly. Which was achieved by them cutting holes in the floor, removing floorboards, and putting different people under there for different appendages. So they would just
So
be
those
like,
were real, those were like real arms and legs.
those
and
were
stuff?
people, yeah, in the floor, wiggling their arms and legs and head.
Yeah.
So that
That's
way,
awesome.
I guess I pictured it like just like rubber with people just like under there like shaking it, but like
Yeah.
thinking that so their arms are actually just like
yeah,
they're
so
twitching.
yeah, arm, and then like the leg is a person laying with their leg like crossways on it, and then you know, there's other things, and actually there's a diagram of it that we could probably put up on the screen from Bruce's book that shows what it looked like underneath. So if Chins Could Kill by Bruce Campbell, but that's a plug, so that way I'm not just showing his work. But yeah, it's pretty great. And then yeah, this is when shit gets real, because then he's like, "What do? We got to bury her." And Ash says, "We can't bury Shelley. She's a friend of ours," because he's in complete shock.
Yeah.
So they wrap her remains up in a sheet, and they go and take it out, and they nail a cross down where they bury her. They build a cross, which becomes like a running gag in the Evil Dead movies. It's really funny. He even makes one for Evil Ash in Army of Darkness. He totally makeshifts a cross. And there's a really funny joke in Ash vs. Evil Dead with it. But so yeah, at this point, this is when the shit gets real. So Scotty says, "Hey, I'm getting out of here," and Ash is like, "Well, Linda can't walk, and Cheryl. What are we going to do with Cheryl?" And he's like, "We'll leave her. We'll come back for him." And this is where Scotty kind of turns and he says, "She's your girlfriend. I don't care what happens to her. I'm out of here."
Yeah.
And he ditches his friends.
Yeah.
So he goes off into the woods by himself.
Good riddance.
Meanwhile, Ash goes to check on Linda, and we find out that we get this great shot of her wound. He goes to check on her wound, and it's spider webs.
Mm-hmm.
It starts like all these webs, veins start appearing from the wound, and then she awakens possessed. And he's, of course, like shocked. And she starts chasing him down, and she doesn't chase him down, but she arrives in the thing, and there's this great bit where she's sitting in this doorway, and Ash slaps her, and the music goes bam, 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 like so like 50 score. I love it. And he decides he's gonna, because at this point, good old Scotty has come back, and he's been fucked up by the trees. Like he's even worse for wear than Cheryl was. So he's got a bone sticking out of his wrist. He's all cut up. He's got a stick sticking out of his stomach, and he's like telling Ash to kill Linda because she's possessed. He's like, shoot her. He's like crashed out on the couch. So Ash goes to shoot her, and as he raises the gun to shoot her, he says, "God forgive me, Linda." She turns back into Linda and starts crying. And then Cheryl turns back into Cheryl and is saying, "Let me out of the cellar. I'm okay now." So, of course, he bends down to see what's going on, and he's listening, and she attacks him through the floorboards. And then he says, "You bastards! Why are you torturing me like this? Why?"
Yes. Love that.
Love it. And then that's where we see Linda sitting in the doorway, and she's saying, "We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you." Come on, guys.
This is Jake's favorite part because
Yeah.
it used to scare him so bad.
He watched it with me. I know. I remember.
Yeah, yes, he always brings this part up. Like this is the thing that stands out to Jake about this.
Yeah, it's really scary. What do you guys think? Is this a scary part?
I didn't think this part was that scary. But that's just me. Like I said, like the thing that stood out to me was the beginning and like the eeriness of like the cabin itself and like the swing hitting the wall, and that's the part that really always stands out to me is just that intro. But I think it's really hilarious that this part in particular just scares Jake. Just this girl,
creepy.
She's got kind of like doll-like demon
like
face,
a doll face. Yeah,
yeah, and her voice is like very
really like cutesy.
Yeah, like doll-like.
Yeah,
you know.
What do you think,
but
Derek?
Like terrifying.
I'll tell you the only thing I didn't like about the scene. I didn't, and like the makeup that Linda has is just makeup instead of like a prosthetic or what have you. That's really the only critique that I have. But yeah, if someone was fucking saying that shit to me, I'd be shooting them all with the gun, man. I'd be unloading on them.
So Ash can't bring himself to shoot her, so he grabs her by her feet and he drags her outside. Then he goes to talk to Scotty about how they're going to get out of there, and he starts pouring a drink down his throat. And
smacking him in the face.
Scotty's dead, guys. Scotty is gonzo. And Ash is just like pouring a drink down his throat.
I was like, don't do that.
Sarah was like, why is he doing that? I said, he's in shock, babe. He just doesn't know what's... He's in total shock.
He's had a psychotic break.
Yeah, and that's basically what starts to happen here at this point. Linda comes back and attacks him with the knife, and we get this great fight scene between the two of them, where he ends up impaling her through the back with the dagger, and she dies. So he thinks. So then, one of my favorite sequences in the movie, he takes her out to the work shed, and we get this Sam Raimi as fuck scene, where he lays her on the workbench, and we get a bunch of quick shots of him grabbing, like, chaining her down. Then he pulls the thing to tighten it, and then he whips the thing, grabs a chainsaw, and just all these quick shots. It's Sam Raimi, and it's glorious. What do you guys think of this scene?
Yeah, it couldn't be more Sam Raimi.
No. Like you were talking about, Derek.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, this is one of those scenes that you see the scene and you're like, oh, Sam Raimi directed this.
Yep. Does he have a dialogue with over that body in the scene?
No.
That I thought was funny? No.
No, you're thinking of Evil Dead 2. He talks to Linda's severed head that's in a vice.
This is where it kind of like blurs the lines when you're like rewatching them and you're like I haven't watched it since like last year probably.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, is this the one where this happens, or is this the one where? Because they're so similar in a few of these scenes.
Yeah. I mean, the first 15 minutes of Evil Dead 2 are basically recapping Evil Dead 1 told differently. It's kind of remaking that movie because they couldn't get the rights to Evil Dead, strangely enough, because New Line owned them. So
so stupid.
It is dumb. But so he can't bring himself to chainsaw her. He pulls it there. He sees the hideous necklace. It reminds him of his love. And he decides to just take her to take her out and bury her. So as he's digging the hole, we have the reprise, which we talked about, of the eye games. So we have her opening her eyes while Ash's back's turned, and he looks back and her eyes are closed. And this goes on. So we, the audience, know she's still alive and that he's in danger, but he has no idea. It's a great way to turn that around.
Yeah.
So then he buries her, and we get one of my favorite shots of the whole movie, where he throws dirt on the camera, and it happens to land perfectly where you can just still see his face as he dumps the last bit of dirt. Just fortuitous. It's luck is what it was, and it was perfect. So then, of course, he sees the necklace laying there, so he goes to grab it. And what do you know? Linda's back alive, even though she looks completely different, because it is a fake shimp, guys. It is totally not her anymore. It's a completely different actress with a bad wig playing her at this point. But Linda comes back to life, and he starts beating her with those pieces of wood. And she starts spewing like milk and shit. And, I mean, this bile, which is probably milk in real life. But and then he, like, wails on her when she's on the ground. And you see it start to break. And then she throws him. And she leaps at him. And he grabs the shovel and decapitates her with the shovel. Her head lands, and her body lands on top of him and starts spraying him in the face with blood.
So gross.
And the body's writhing on top of him as this is happening. And he's, and the head's going, like an ecstasy. So creepy. What do you guys think of this bit?
I like that it's, because without thinking that it's a different person, it's clearly scarier looking once it comes back out of the ground.
Yeah.
Once she comes back out of the ground, she's got the prosthetic eye piece on, and like it is much more frightening than what she just looked like. So I liked that it was like definitely scarier. And it gives you that shock that it's like, oh, now she's like this, like ew. I hate seeing like the blood come out of her like stump.
I love that. That's my favorite. It's so visceral. It's so visceral and so
I'm like,
fun.
oh, I can't look at that. Ooh, it's cringy.
There's actually one of the early versions of one of the first scripts I wrote was very heavily the original version of Hookman, before the one that we ended up filming, and the one I wrote when I was younger was heavily influenced by Evil Dead. And there was a kill where the character that back in the day, Derek, you were supposed to play back in the old days, you were going to get hooked on the top of the head, and then you were going to land on top of my character, and I was going to be sprayed in the face with your blood. Directly homaging this scene. I still might do that, so nobody take that. That's a good bit. I still might throw that in the movie somewhere. Except it won't be me, because I'll be directing it. And it won't be Derek.
It won't be me, because I don't. I try not to act in anything.
But so he goes back inside after this horrific shit that just went down, and starts to lose his mind. Essentially, he goes in. He starts. He locks the door. Then he goes up to the mirror. And goes to touch the mirror, and his hand goes through it, and it's water.
Amazing.
Don't you guys love that? I love that bit.
So I don't think that these are connected whatsoever. But is that the hand that he loses later on in the franchise?
Well, he loses his right hand, and I'm wanting to say he reaches in with his right hand. Maybe. I mean, the reason that he loses
on that.
Well, the reason, they do. The reason he loses it is because it gets Linda's severed head bites it in Evil Dead 2.
I know, but this. Well, what I'm saying is, this would have been an easy way to also do that. Like, oh, he put his hand through. I'm making shit up now.
Yeah,
This was
well,
the portal, and
you're also
he touched
assuming
it.
that they planned on making a sequel to this when they filmed it. They did not.
Now that is also true. I am, but anyway, I thought it was maybe just happenstance that it happened to be that.
Yeah,
hand,
it's I think that's an interesting idea, because they really don't do anything else with the mirror in this movie except that really cool effect, and then it's like, well, okay, on to the next thing.
It was just there to show that he's breaking, that he's going mad.
Right, yeah,
Mhm.
which is cool.
So then, Linda basically, or Cheryl, when he comes back in, he sees that Cheryl is gone. Like, so I forgot to mention that the cabin or the cellar door is busted open. She's gone.
Yeah.
She's into the night, and he hears something outside. He shoots a hole in the window, and then he sees her and basically shoots her. So after he goes and he locks the back door, locks the front door, and then he's like, where did I see those shotgun shells? Oh, downstairs. So he ventures into the basement to get the shotgun shells. And while he's down in the basement, he hears like this pipe starts to collapse. And then it breaks open and it just spills a gallon of blood all over him. Then the phonograph starts up and starts playing this creepy song. Mm-hmm. And then the projector comes alive. Blood starts dripping onto the projector, and it's basically making blood flow down the screen onto Ash. And then a light bulb fills with blood. Blood starts coming out of the sockets. It's like the Three Stooges short, A Plumbing We Will Go, with blood. And then, so all of this shit goes down. It starts breaking. The light bulb breaks. The thing loses its film. Finally, the record dies. Then we get this cool little bit where Ash is grabbing the ammo. And we get their voiceovers of him telling them to shut up. We're gonna get you. What do you guys think of this basement sequence? I think it's one of my favorite bits of the movie. It's so crazy and out there.
I really like the scene the shot where he's like, the projector turns on and he's standing in front of it and it's like blood. That is so cool to me. I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite bits. What do you think?
That's
Eric?
one of the things that they didn't like. I don't think they played on. They didn't use that shot in Evil Dead 2.
No, they use a similar shot. Instead of that, they have blood actually running down the screen, our screen, because when he's chopping up Evil Ed, and you hear Henrietta say, "We live still." I can't wait to talk about Evil Dead 2. It's a great one. Do you like this scene, Derek?
I do like it. It makes me a little jealous of how much blood they used, and
yeah, I know
all the possibilities we have in our movies that we should explore those.
We need to up our blood game, don't we?
Mm-hmm. There was a part where it was dropping on the projector, and you could definitely tell that it was like Hershey's syrup with.
I mean, it was our blood. It's our our blood domination. Yeah,
that really just made it feel more personal.
Yeah, made
when
you
I saw that because I was like,
love it even more, don't you?
Do it.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I know how that's done. I love it. Yeah. Yep. So then Ash goes upstairs and he leans against the door and he's attacked by Linda. There's this great bit in this whole scene. These are where my favorite shots are. So there's a bit where the camera's below him and he swipes his foot across the camera to a cut. Then there's a bit where we start behind Ash's head, then we go over him, in front of him. It's a great shot. Yeah. There's a great angle when he goes upstairs. We're tilted at a 45-degree angle, and then he walks across the room, and we tilt with him. as he walks across the room.
It's so disorienting. It's great. It's like it really makes you feel like you're like, oh man, I don't like this. I don't know what's going on. Like
Especially
you feel there with him, like how he's probably seeing things.
Especially the shot where you see the inside the clock arm, and it's going, and then we do that quick close up of the Dutch angle of his face where he's lit weird, and then we're above him and he's walking, and we cross a beam and we go womp womp womp. As the camera crosses the beam, it makes that sound effect. Womp womp womp. So awesome. I was watching it today and I was like, God damn, that's filmmaking. That's filmmaking with a capital F. I love it. Love that shit. I mean, so that's just the shots things I just wanted to talk about. Do you guys have any shots in the scene that you like too?
I like when it goes over.
Pretty much named all.
Yeah, they're all good.
Go ahead,
But like
buddy.
when they go over the top of his head and his hair is just so like blood soaked and like nasty. I love it.
Yeah, and the way it goes over and then around to like the close up of him is so cool. It's a great shot. How they did that was crazy. They were basically upside down over him, and they had to pull the camera around like doing like a setup to get that shot. And you have to remember they're doing this.
There was somebody hanging upside down
yeah,
above him.
Yeah, basically. And they were like kind of doing like a reverse setup, and they had to do it. Yeah. Crazy.
Wow.
And then and they had to do it. They had to focus pull it in camera because they couldn't do dailies. Like, you know, they would have to actually do dailies. They can't check the shot like we do. We have a video tap nowadays. And we can also just immediately after we pull up the shot and that focus is a little soft. Let's do it again. So, like I noticed earlier in the movie, the scene where they play the eye games for the first time, that whole shot is out of focus. It's the focus is soft. It's not like horribly out of focus, but it's really soft. And you never notice it. I mean, I noticed it this time around because I was looking for those things. But, yeah, I mean, you know, so they had to live with some of these shots that they had. There's also a great shot while we're talking about it where he's going up the stairs and back up the stairs of the cellar, and we're underneath the stairs. And we watch him go up from underneath the stairs, and we see him through the slits of the stairs. It's an awesome shot. I was like, I might be stealing that one. 'Cause that's a cool shot. Might steal that for something.
Very creative.
So anyway, the shit goes down when he gets back up there. She ends up, you know, trying to come through. He barricades the door, and then Scotty comes back to life. And he and Scotty are fighting. And he throws the table at him that has the book on it, and the book lands near the fireplace and starts to kind of get hot. So then Scotty starts to smoke. And Scotty has him held up, and this is where you guys were talking about your favorite, the grossest effect, where he pushes his thumbs into his eyes, and it just oozes out. That's a great effect.
It's so gross. And it's like super thick red. It's like not even blood. It's like just thicker than blood. Like,
viscera. A bunch of viscera.
Gross.
Yeah.
So gross.
Derek, you were talking about this scene earlier. You're muted. At least once an episode.
He's just staying muted this time. He's just like doesn't want to talk to us anymore.
Anyway, yeah. No, this was really great where he's pushing his thumbs through his eyeballs. And you're like,
It's really intense. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
And then I like how he looks down and he sees the stick sticking out of his stomach, so he pulls it, and then like a flood of blood just starts.
Oh yeah.
Like a fountain.
It was just like a
so gross.
It's kind of like the butt gutter.
Yeah, kind of a similar effect. Just like a hose.
Lydia's like, that's a great name, you guys.
Yeah.
Do any of the listeners remember us talking about the butt gutter?
I don't know. For context,
have we talked about that?
In our short film
context. We should just let them. No, go ahead.
For
Just leave it.
context, in one of our short films, Hookman, which you can watch on YouTube, there's a scene where a character is gutted from, I guess their crotchal region, and a bunch of blood and viscera falls out. And the way we achieve this effect is that we used we used a gutter that we beat down with a hammer. We attached it to an apparatus that had legs attached to it. And that way the hook could go across without hurting the actor. And we poured the blood down the gutter and it exploded out. And since it was attached to the butt of the pants, we decided to name it the butt gutter. So that's what that is.
That was Lydia's. That was Lydia's character.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
Lydia's
it
character.
was.
Spoiler. Now you know how she dies. But check it out. Check out Hookman and respond in the comments to that, and respond in the comments to this episode actually, and let us know what you think. So yeah, Scotty's down for the count at this point because he's gotten the stick pulled out of his belly and his eyes gouged out, and that's when Cheryl breaks back through, and she knocks him down, and she starts beating him with this fire poker, and she's whooping the shit out of him. And
just let it go. Just let it go. It happens.
she's
I need to
whooping
get
the
better
shit out of him.
chairs. What can I say?
You do.
Damn IKEA.
Should get a rolling one next time. Bring your rolling one down.
It's a lot of work.
Anyway, so she's hitting him with this, and that's when he sees that they're both smoking. Scotty's biting at his leg, by the way, which is I find so disgusting. When he's like with his like fucked up face, he's like biting his calf and shit. It's ever since I was a kid, I was like, that is so nasty. Because he also has a bad wound there for where Linda scratched the fuck out of him when she was raising him from the grave.
Yes.
And so he sees that they're both smoking, so he uses the great necklace that he has to try to catch the book so he can throw it in the fire. And if you guys notice, when he goes to pick up the necklace, it's in the shape of a skull. You guys ever notice that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they make it into the shape of a skull. So he grabs it and he ends up fishing the book, throwing it in, and then we get the final meltdown scene. What are you guys' thoughts on the meltdown scene? I think it's super creative.
It is. There's a point where I don't know if it was like oatmeal or it was applesauce. They shoved it through like one of the sleeves of. I was like, that's good. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I love the animation of them, the stop motion of them starting to fall apart. I think looks like really cool. And you see Scotty starting to like melt down, his skull starts like bubbling and shit. And then you like think you're done after all they like melt down and stuff. And then these giant hands burst out of their bodies and splat Ash right in the face with their goop. It rips the bodies apart. Cheryl falls down and her head explodes right into Ash, and all of the brain and viscera just splatters all over his face. He's covered in blood. And the fire poker lands beside him. And the day is done. I mean, he made it through the night. He goes outside, walks out. We get this like nice calming music. He sees the sun. And then we pick up on a leaf. And the leaf turns into the evil force. And it starts roaming through the woods. And it smacks open this door into Ash as we cut to black. What do you guys think of the ending of The Evil Dead?
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Yeah, definitely. I just have one question.
Yes.
Did you guys ever watch Return to Oz?
Mm-hmm. Back when I was a kid. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Okay, so that movie is like a really strange, kind of traumatizing movie.
Yeah.
And it has the exact same looking stop motion
Yeah.
animation. And I could not stop thinking about it watching that stop motion of all the demons like falling apart and like melting. It's like I just need to talk about it. I just need to say something about it.
Yeah, it's that was the style of the time, that stop motion animation.
It's
Wasn't
so
that in
weird. It's
Indiana
so
Jones as well?
Yes,
Well,
when the and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when he chooses poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it like turns into that traumatizing skull right in front of you.
Yeah.
The Indiana Jones movies have some pretty fucked up shit going on in there too when you're a kid.
Those are great movies.
Yeah.
Like when at the end of the first one, when old boy's face melts after he sees the ark. Such a great effect.
So good.
We love you, Lord and Savior Steven Spielberg.
So good. But yeah, the stop motion in that really, I was like, I don't know, like it's weird to me because it was like it's just as terrifying to me in Return to Oz as it is in this. Like, but this one, like you said, like with like the oatmeal kind of like it looks so like banana, like in a blender, like this nasty, like
it's viscera.
Just like disgusting yellow chunky pus comes out of these things. It's so gross.
I love it. Yeah. And then that
I love stop motion, but this stop motion is so disturbing.
I love stop motion a lot, actually. I mean, computer effects nowadays can do anything, but like, you give me the stop motion effects of the original Star Wars trilogy, forget about it. The Rancor is amazing. Yes. And the of course the ATST walkers, you just can't beat them. Yes. But so that's, I mean, you know, we end with that cut to black, which at the time Sam Raimi said, you know, the end of Evil Dead was that everything dies, even the music dies at the end of Evil Dead because it starts to as it ends. Of course, we find out that we get that shot picked back up in Evil Dead 2, and what happens is it spins him around in circles and slams him against a tree. Then he turns into Evil Ash for a minute till the sun comes back up, and we'll get to that when we get to Evil Dead 2. So guys, your thoughts on Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2 and your ratings. Derek, let's start with you.
I think that it is it's a movie that inspired a whole like generation of filmmakers, and you can see his work in a lot of different movies. And so anytime that you can be identified for the way that you shoot a movie, I feel like you're really making your mark. And so this was it's the great first installment to a great franchise that continued up until very recently, and I'm sure it'll pick back up again.
Well, Evil Dead Rise comes out next year.
Oh yeah. I would give this movie. I'm gonna give it an 8. It's a joyous ride of horror.
It is. Lydia, what would you give Evil Dead? And tell me your thoughts on it.
I'm gonna give Evil Dead a 10 because I will recommend it every single time. If somebody asks me about it, if somebody brings it up, I want to talk about it. I love this movie. It is iconic. It is classic. It is like, it's like it paved the way for so many movies, and it's so unique. It was so unique. Now it's been done so many times. But it's never been done quite like the first 2 times it's been done.
Yeah, no,
I should
no.
say. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one a 10.
Evil Dead is one of my favorite horror movies. That's no secret. It's also one of the most inspirational movies to me. As an aspiring filmmaker, you watch Evil Dead and you say, these guys did it. I mean, they had an abundance of talent, obviously. Sam Raimi is a visionary director, but they had the gumption and the fortitude to do it. So it's one of the most inspiring behind-the-scenes stories. And then the movie that they ended up putting on the screen is just a blast to watch. It's just fun from start to finish. I'm going to give Evil Dead, and I struggled with this, I'm going to give Evil Dead a 9. And the only reason I'm giving it a 9, besides me saving the 10 for next week probably, but is because there might be a couple Evil Dead movies I like better. So I needed a ceiling room to go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Evil Dead is a 9. I mean, it's stone cold classic, flaws and all. The flaws make it even better, in my opinion. It's just, it's a wonderful movie. You know, hail to the king, baby.
And guys, we can't forget this week. We've got to Atkinize this movie.
We 100% have got to Atkinize Sam Raimi's Evil Dead.
I don't know how we could possibly do that.
I know exactly who Tom Atkins would play.
I know.
He would be Scotty.
He would be that piece of shit.
He would be Scotty. I mean, he's already drinking moonshine when he's driving down the road.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
He kills the shit out of a couple of the Deadites. He's kind of, she's not my girlfriend. I don't care about her. It'd be Tom Atkins.
Yeah.
He's got the womanizing down, is what you're saying.
Yep. I also think that the Atkins version would be great because I think he could say something like, we got to go back home on Monday. Because it's not Monday, it's Monday. Do you guys agree with that? You think he would play?
Yes.
Scotty?
Yes, that's the only option.
It's the only because he can't be Ash. There's only one Ash.
There's only one.
Long live Bruce.
Yep.
We would never do that. Okay.
Never ever.
Never
recast.
step over that line.
No. Bruce is royalty.
For sure.
He's the king. So we hail to the king in these parts. So guys, that was Evil Dead. What's on the agenda next week, Derek?
The next movie is
in the
Halloween.
John Carpenter's Halloween. That is currently on Shudder, isn't it? I do believe it's currently on Shudder. It's John Carpenter's immortal classic. It is on Shudder. If you have Shudder, it is on. You can rent it on Amazon Prime. You could probably find it on TV at this point. It's holiday, and Shout Factory just came out with a new 4K that I picked up, and it's wonderful. So if you have a few extra bucks and you want to check that out, I would recommend it. It's a great transfer. The best the movie's ever looked. So next week is John Carpenter's Halloween. Do you guys have anything else before we sign off?
No, I don't.
Next week we have maybe a trick and a few treats for you. So
for sure.
We're really excited about next week's episode. So be ready for that. If there's nothing else, guys, for Scream Bloody Movies, I think that's it, right? Nothing else? Oh, Lydia.
I just wanted to say for all the listeners on our Halloween episode, we are going to dress up. So if you want to dress up as a horror character or something spooky, please feel free to join us and take a picture. Tag us in your Halloween costumes because I want to see all of them.
Yes, tag us on Facebook. Tag us on Instagram. Tag me on Twitter. I'm at Racket, Racket. And, like the episode, subscribe, share it so everybody gets it on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. So that way we can
On
grow.
IMDb.
Yeah. So that way we can
I'm just
grow
kidding.
the show, grow the audience, and hopefully give you guys some more extra content. So that's the goal. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and be sure to tag us in the question or the thing I asked you to earlier for Hookman. So if there's nothing else, I'm Jamie Hiles, and for Lydia Judy and Derek Lemaster, remember, if you're going to scream, scream
Scream bloody movie.
That was decent. That one wasn't bad. Scream bloody movies. Goodbye, folks. Do you think that the
Since we're getting this part out, I just decided to let it go.
Oh God.
It was the chair.